Let's talk about Ryan Walters. I feel like I have to do this every week because the guy who runs public education in Oklahoma always finds a way to shove religion into everything he does, and he did it again this week. Basically, he now wants to spend $6 million, taxpayer dollars, on new King James Version Bibles for teachers across the state. $6 million. Let me show you the headline here. This is from the Oklahoman. Ryan Walters wants $6 million to purchase Bibles for classrooms in his proposed budget. And right here, Walters said during the monthly meeting of the Oklahoma State Board of Education that the funds that he's requesting would be coupled with $3 million he allocated from last year for a total of $6 million to provide Bibles for public schools throughout Oklahoma. He said he wanted to purchase new King James Version editions that were free from commentary, although he noted it would be fine if the books included other key historical documents such as the U.S. Constitution. And if all of you, some of you, the alarm bells are going off, because if you're looking for like a KJV Bible that also has the U.S. Constitution mixed in with it, you know where you could find that? That's the Trump Bible that Trump is selling right now. So I don't know if that's the type that Ryan Walters is calling for, but there you go. He wants to spend $6 million to bring that book to every classroom in the state. Now, just because I feel I have to do this, for those of you who are not familiar with Ryan Walters, the Christian Nationalist running Oklahoma education, this is the same guy who tried to already force teachers to just make the Bible part of their curriculum. He backed a taxpayer-funded Catholic charter school, which the Oklahoma Supreme Court had to later declare illegal. He tried to put Christian chaplains in every public school. He attempted to mandate displays of the Ten Commandments in public schools. He approved the use of PragerU brainwashing materials in classrooms. He said the Tulsa Race Massacre has nothing to do with race in Oklahoma. He falsely insisted that Joe Biden wants to destroy our Christian faith, even though Joe Biden's a Christian. He formed a faith committee to examine prayer in public schools, appointed that woman who runs Libs of TikTok to a statewide library advisory board so she could take part in banning books. And then he sent out a sample prayer for teachers to use in regards to the people in Israel and definitely not the victims in Gaza. So that's Ryan Walters. And as I mentioned in a video a couple of weeks ago, he's, besides the culture war stuff, he's so bad at doing his job that even Republicans in the Oklahoma legislature have called for an investigation into him and his office over a whole bunch of concerns that he's like hoarding money and not helping students because they allocated money to deal with asthma inhalers and things like that he's not distributing properly. So that's Ryan Walters. And now this guy wants to spend money on Bibles. Like, he'll do anything to wreck the school system he was elected to oversee, all because he wants to prop up private schools, religious schools, homeschools, and things like that. So anyway, here's what he's trying to do now in Oklahoma. And where did the bit go? Oh, here we go. He said this during the Board of Education meeting. Where did it all go? I swear I set this all up. Okay. This is the thing he said at the meeting. So this would give us the ability to utilize $6 million in less than 2 years to ensure that the Bible hasn't been driven out of Oklahoma classrooms, Walters said. That would be a significant step for the state of Oklahoma to ensure that we're not allowing the left to censor American history. Like, what the hell are we talking about here? There's no censorship of American history. There are American history teachers and experts who say, hey, we should talk about slavery. And I know Ryan Walters hates that. But no one's driven the Bible out of Oklahoma schools or Oklahoma. Like, there's a reason none of you want to visit the Panhandle. It's because the Bible is everywhere. He apparently said he wants to purchase all this stuff in order to protect U.S. history. His vision of what U.S. history classes ought to be like is the sort of history promoted by Christian pseudo-historian David Barton, which is to say it's all this fictional, Jesus-centric story of our past where all the founding fathers were all the same kind of Christian and they all shoved the Bible and the Bible's words into the Declaration and the Constitution and everything else. And none of that is true, but Ryan Walters would rather lie about Christianity than tell the truth about American history. And, this is a side note, but I don't know why he needs $6 million to do this, because I looked up the numbers. Let me share this with you. This is from a document on Ryan Walters' office's own website. This is from 2021, 2022, but the page you're looking at here is the teacher and student count in Oklahoma. I'll remove myself here. Look at the far right here, because what this says is that in the 21-22 school year, there were about 700,000 kids in public schools and 42,551 teachers. Like right over there, you could see that. If there are 42,551 teachers, and I know like gym teachers don't need a copy of the Bible, presumably math teachers do not need a copy of the Bible, but let's suppose he wanted to give a Bible to every single public school teacher in the state of Oklahoma. Do the math right now. 6 million divided by 43. Let's round up to hit for his benefit. Round 6 million divided by 43,000. How much money would he be spending on every copy of the Bible? Because when I did it, it came out to about $140. If you bought a book for every single one of them, it would cost $140 per Bible. What are his overheads like? Like, did no one at the board during the meeting do the basic math here? Not to mention there are countless Oklahoma megachurches that if you gave them the opportunity, they would throw Bibles at the public schools for free. And I don't know if you all know this, there are copies of the KJV and New KJV online for free. And students today, even in Oklahoma, are familiar with computers. So this thing could cost $0, but he wants to spend $6 million to buy something that comes out to about $140 a teacher. I don't understand it. I don't know where this number is coming from, and he never bothered trying to justify the expense at all. And the thing is, during this board meeting that took place on Thursday morning, no one on the board bothered to question any of this. This is from the Oklahoman. At Thursday's education board meeting, all 4 of the appointed members in attendance asked questions about and expressed support for Walters' plans to distribute Bibles to every classroom in Oklahoma. Like, really? No one had any questions? I have questions. I'm not on the board. Like, all of them acted like this was in the spirit of religious neutrality, that the Bibles were absolutely not an endorsement of Christianity, and that the only purpose of this project was to help students learn the role the Bible played throughout American history. But if that was the actual agenda here, again, there is nothing stopping public school teachers from referencing any relevant text in their classroom. This is one reason a whole bunch of superintendents, and I made a video about this like last week, a whole bunch of the biggest public school systems, districts in Oklahoma, the superintendents have said, yeah, we're not participating in the mandatory Bible policy that Ryan Walters created. Why? Because they said if our teachers need to reference the Bible, they have the leeway to do that already if they need to. History teachers can and do bring up the Bible if it's relevant. Same with English teachers. By the way, they can bring up the Magna Carta too if they think it's necessary, but you will never hear Oklahoma officials demand a physical copy of the Magna Carta in every classroom in the state, because that would be stupid. So if teachers want to bring in a copy of a Bible to their classrooms for objective reasons, they can do it. Translations of the Bible, again, are free online. No one needs a physical copy of this book paid for by taxpayers in their classrooms. And by the way, a translation of the Bible, this translation of the Bible, not only is it not used by non-Christians, many Christians don't use the KJV or some derivation of it. So why are we doing this? Why is it so important to Ryan Walters that we use this particular translation and this particular religious book? This is a $6 million gift to the religious ministry that would eventually get the contract to give these Bibles to the school districts. Like, I was trying to figure out what's the use of any of this. I think the only use I could think of to have a Bible in every classroom is that if and when there's a school shooting, some kid grabs a copy of it and holds it up as a shield. And then maybe once that Bible might be useful, and even then, probably not. So the board, the reason they met that day is because they were trying to approve a budget. And they did. They approved a budget that is worth $4.1 billion. And so the $3 million earmark for the Bible that Ryan Walters is now asking for, in addition to the $3 million from last year, like, it's a drop in the bucket. It's not much. And this is a $4.1 billion request to the state legislature for his office. They may end up saying no. They may end up saying, we're not giving you $4.1 billion. We're going to scratch things off the list. We'll give you a lot less than you requested. That is, in fact, what they did the year before. So, but it is indicative of the board's priorities, where they are using this money, what they want to use it for, and things like that. And it's clear Ryan Walters is more interested, not just Ryan Walters, his colleagues too on this board, they're more interested in promoting Christianity than giving students the tools they need to succeed. They want to rewrite history to advance their faith, despite criticism from historians who know better, and they want the legislature to pay in order to brainwash public school students. One silver lining to all this is that some people are speaking out. They're doing it loudly, and it's worth listening to what they're saying. For example, a Democratic state senator, there's like 4 Democrats in Oklahoma, but they're awesome. One of the state senators, her name is Mary Boren, and she said the U.S. Constitution is not the only constitution the state school board needs to consider when making its decision. Oklahoma's constitution specifically says that the State Board of Education cannot do what they are trying to do. The Oklahoma provision in our constitution establishes a higher bar of separation of church and state. So awesome. Yeah, she's right. That's fantastic. She also poked a hole in the argument that this particular version of the Bible was influential, because she said even Michelangelo was influenced by the Latin Catholic Bible, not the version Ryan Walters is promoting. She's not the only person speaking out either, though. Let me show you a different comment that was made. I really liked this one, if I can find it. There we go. This is from the leader of the Democrats, House Democratic leader Cindy Munson, who released the following statement, also raising concerns over Walters' request. Let's read this together because it's awesome. The state superintendent continues to ignore the Oklahoma Constitution. He wants to use millions in public taxpayer dollars to fund religion in public schools, something the majority of Oklahomans are adamantly against, while Oklahoma public schools remain some of the most underfunded public schools in the nation. Oklahoma ranks 45th in the U.S. for per student expenditures, and our public school teachers are paid more than $10,000 less than the national average salary for public school teachers. There are major gaps in funding public education in Oklahoma, and yet the state superintendent continues to abandon the needs of our public school districts to push for policies that do not benefit teachers, students, or families. He has and continues to fail us and our public schools. Great statement. I appreciate that. There's one more you got to read. It's from State Representative Mickey Dollins. This is on X/Twitter. This one is also glorious. Let's read this one together, shall we? This is what it looks like when Christian nationalism attempts to take over public education. The state superintendent of Oklahoma Public Schools wants to spend millions of your tax dollars to purchase Bibles, which he demands be taught in public school classrooms beyond just world history and social studies. When asked which version he preferred, he specified the KJV, but added that it can include other key historical documents, such as the Constitution. Conveniently, the Trump Bible is the KJV and includes the U.S. Constitution. Public schools are not Sunday schools. The state superintendent and numerous GOP politicians in Oklahoma are on a Christian nationalist crusade to impose their religious agenda on everyone else's kids. And then he lists through all these Christian nationalist things they have tried to do. These are a clear attacks on religious freedom. We're a constitutional republic, a form of democracy, not a theocracy. And then he says at the end, it's also important to note that students can and do bring their Bible, Torah, Quran, Bhagavad Gita, Avesta, etc. into classrooms. But forcing religious texts into classrooms by the government is a violation of the freedom of religion. So much appreciation for all those Democrats for speaking out. I'll bring up one other thing, and I've said this before. Even when you look beyond the culture war bullshit, Walter's decisions here, the way he's using his money, what he's trying to do, it could make college admissions counselors think twice before they admit a kid who graduated from an Oklahoma public school. Because they may very well say, okay, this kid is coming to our school, they want to major in history, but they're coming from Oklahoma. It is possible they do not have the baseline level of knowledge they need in order to succeed in our school because they were taught using Oklahoma standards, and those are really low. And what Ryan Walters is doing is making life harder for the very kids he's supposed to be helping. Students can always overcome any number of obstacles, like they do it all the time. It's inspiring, but it is awful that the obstacle they currently face is the guy who's supposed to be running the state's public schools. He's supposed to be their ally, not an antagonist. By the way, there's one other side note to this whole story, which is one of the reasons we know all of this happened at the meeting on Thursday is because there were local news reporters who could videotape the entire meeting and write about this budget proposal he was making. But in order to be there, they had to file a lawsuit against Ryan Walters to get there. This is from KFOR, which I believe is the local NBC News affiliate in Oklahoma City. They had to go to court earlier this week in order to get access to the meeting. Ryan Walters and his staff, they regularly deny reporters the ability to come inside the room where they're holding the meeting. They might send them to an overflow room where you can't record it live. And he also denied the KFOR reporters access to his post-meeting press conferences. And so the station sued him in his office, and a judge granted their request on Wednesday so they could be in the room on Thursday documenting what he did. And when one of those reporters, Spencer Humphrey, said online he reached out to Ryan Walters' office to see if they had any comment after the judge said, you got to let these reporters in, a guy named Dan Isett, who works in Ryan Walters' office, responded to Spencer Humphrey, and take a look at what he wrote because he works for Ryan Walters. You know, Spencer Humphrey says, I reached out to Isett and asked if he could share any statement on behalf of Oklahoma State Department of Education. Look at this email. We don't respond to fake news organizations. He said that to an NBC reporter who said, got any comment for a story? Everything is fake news. All of these people are wannabe Trump cultists. They're all in the cult. They all want to be Trump. Everything is fake unless you are acquiescing to their version of every story. Like, it's all the worst people all the time in the GOP. So anyway, not surprising to see that response. But again, you have to fight to just report a school board meeting. It's absurd. And it's also absurd that Ryan Walters is going to obviously cry persecution when people rip on him for how he's wasting money to buy free Bibles that he doesn't need to. All right, I'm going to pause there for a little bit. What questions we got here? How many times must he have his hands slapped telling him no to pushing religion on people? I mean, clearly it hasn't happened enough yet, right? Like, I don't know if he actually sincerely believes he's being persecuted, or he just wants to play the part because he wants to be a future Secretary of Education under a Trump administration. But he's not interested in what critics say. He doesn't care what's good for the kids. He's doing this now for himself and his Christian admirers at this point. So it doesn't matter how many people tell him what he's doing is wrong, because he's acting like he's on a religious crusade. This guy needs to be fired or removed from office. Anyone know if he was elected or appointed? I think he was initially appointed by Kevin Stitt, the governor of Oklahoma, but then he was elected for this job that he's doing. But again, Republican lawmakers are trying to get him expelled. Some of them, but even the guy they said who would need to approve an investigation, as I said in a video a couple of weeks ago, he won't do it yet. He's not giving them the permission they need to do the investigation. So right now, even Republicans cannot get rid of this guy. So he's there unless Kevin Stitt or voters decide to do anything else. Hey, I say give them all the Bible. Just make sure they get a Quran too and a Bhagavad Gita as well, and they have to teach all three. Here's the argument that Ryan Walters is making against all that, because that argument has been brought up. Like, why aren't you asking people to teach different religious texts? And his argument is, well, we're doing U.S. history here, and the Constitution is based on the Bible, not the Quran. And this isn't about religious indoctrination. We're trying to get you good American history. And so only the Bible can be used. That's his argument for why this doesn't need to be religiously neutral, because that would be unfaithful to American history. It's a bad argument because, again, American history didn't use this particular version of the Bible, or at least this Bible did not influence the documents he claimed they influenced. And again, what are you trying to use the Bible for in this case? What are you trying to teach the kids, that you need a physical copy of this book? Because if you're referencing like year of our Lord in the Constitution, that's not just a formality that everyone wrote. That has nothing to do with anything. You don't need a Bible for that. And again, it's hard to take seriously the founders who did reference the Bible because, one, even if there were religious, who cares? A lot of people were religious. They didn't know they didn't know anything about evolution at the time, nor did they know anything about toilets. Like, they were really bad on a whole bunch of issues. And so the fact that some of them were Christian is irrelevant to the documents they wrote. So it's all pointless. This is just his attempt to shove the Bible in schools, just like Louisiana is putting the 10 Commandments in schools. Can't the students use the internet to access the Bible? Just give students internet access. You could. It would be free, at least no additional costs. But again, that would only make sense if you're not trying to indoctrinate kids with the Bible. Ryan Walters absolutely does want to do that, which is why free options are not part of his agenda here. So he wants to pocket the difference and give to the poor, right? Yes, that's absolutely what it... No, of course not, right? Like, let's assume there's no kickbacks to Ryan Walters here. Some company would be tasked to make Oklahoma public school Bibles that would be distributed. And that company, because again, the overhead thing, you can print up as many copies of these books as you want. You could do it really cheaply. You don't need $6 million, even if you wanted to make 43,000 copies. So I don't know if Ryan Walters is trying to get rich off of this. I don't think he is, but some Christian publisher probably would, and they don't need to either. Not on the taxpayers' dime. Again, none of these people know how to do math. $140 for a Bible. Does it come with the hotel room too? Right? Like, even the Gideons are like, we have all these Bibles to just give away. Why don't you go to them? Nope. They want to pay lots of money for no reason because Ryan Walters wants everyone to know he'll use taxpayer dollars to promote religion. Hey, listen, Den, the newsletter could be $140 if someone wants to pay that much. However, you could sign up for free as well.